All right, welcome back to another 2+ podcast bite-sized battle report. This is the second game from the tournament I played in last Saturday, 1,500 points. This is a breakpoint scenario, and I'm playing Paul, who had Royal Clan Dwarfs, just like the first round. Obviously, they're my Lizardmen again down the bottom, and Paul began on a breakpoint of 16 and I'm on 18. From the top of the screen, you can see that he's got 3 units of Iron Drakes, all with Trollhammer torpedoes. So the extreme flanks on the left, there's 1 unit of 5, and then there are 2 units of 5, one on the hill on the right hand flank. He's also brought 2 units of Royal Clan Warriors that are flanking a big unit of Hammerers with a King. We'll post the list in the notes, but it's very similar setup to the first round where the King has the extra attack, D6 wounds, the 4+ ward, and there's also a royal pony, a pony cart behind the King and those 2 units pushing them forward a bit more. You'll notice that they're set up in marching column as well. From the bottom, you have my Kroxigor unit on the far left, the Slann next to them, then the 10 Saurus to the right. I had a unit of Jungle Swarms that after Vanguard moved towards the Iron Drakes on the right flank. I've hidden the Carnosaur and the Stegodon behind the forest to avoid the torpedoes. I've got my 10 Skinks to the right of them and the 14 Scouting Skinks set up to attack the Iron Drakes. The idea here was I was just going to cave in the middle, let him run forward as far as he liked, try to take out the Trollhammer torpedoes as soon as possible, or at least engage them, and then hit the infantry units from the side, avoiding the hammers and the King until the very end, if possible. So, winning the first turn, again, I did pretty well. I got Arcane Urgency off on the Kroxigor and moved them up to within 1 inch of the Iron Drakes on that left flank. You can see a whole bunch of skirmishing on the right move forward, but the Iron Drakes were unperturbed, a bunch of poison shots, none of them landed through the armor of the Iron Drakes. I didn't move any of my large monsters at this point. I needed to make sure that they were safe, or at least somewhat safe, before moving them. And I've taken down 4 of the Iron Drakes on the left flank with a Fireball or Ruby Ring through that gap and the magic resistance of the Dwarves. On Paul's first turn, he's marched up both of those central units. He's followed them up with the pony cart and he's pivoted and moved, or as well as marched, their Royal Clan Warriors over towards the Kroxigor. He otherwise shot a bunch of Skinks on the right-hand side. So I think about 3 from one unit and 1 from the other if you run the numbers. My second turn was pretty eventful again. So the Kroxigor have charged the lone Iron Drake, who fired the Trollhammer torpedo and knocked one of the Kroxigor out, it's a great weapon. The Slann and the Saurus have moved back towards the middle, the Slann to try to get within fireball range of the pony cart and the other units. On the right-hand side, I decided to move the Stegodon full through the forest, believing the other Iron Drake units to be engaged with the Carnosaur behind that, somewhat blocked by line of sight. I think I measured from the Iron Drakes that are off the hill. The Skinks had managed to pepper and knock down 2 of the Iron Drakes on the side and caused a panic in one of them. So even though they ran backwards to the back or fell back and got older, I can't remember what happened there, but they did end up, I think there might have even been 2 rolls. It was a quite unusual situation, and I think there were a number of 10s that were rolled on the right-hand side. From there, you can see on the next turn for Paul, he's had some trouble moving those warriors around and on the left-hand flank. So the arrows sort of simplify both his turn and my next one. You can see that they've gone that direction, and then I've been able to use the Kroxigor's, I think, Arcane Urgency to bring them back while the Slann gets in behind them and keeps attempting fireballs and ruby rings. I've managed to get the Jungle Swarms up from there onto charge the last of an Iron Drake unit, and I didn't kill that last unit, or the last soldier. On the top, the Skinks are continue to whittle away at the Trollhammer, the Iron Drakes at the back end. I've set up the Carnosaur and the Stegodon to charge as soon as I can into that unit of Royal Clan Warriors that's in the middle. So you can see that as that occurs, interestingly, the pony cart has charged the swarms, one combat, and that's allowed forcing the swarms to give ground, and it means that the Iron Drake is able to disengage, the others have moved forward, and the units in the middle are trying to maneuver into a better position around that Pillar of Fire template for the Hammerers and just forward for the Royal Clan Warriors. The Royal Clan Warriors at the top left have faced up on the Slann. However, you can see that the Stegodon and the Carnosaur rip through that Royal Clan Warriors unit. There's nothing left. The Carnosaur pursues, catches them, and ends up close to the rear of the Hammerers unit. The Stegodon tested to restrain and reform and succeeded. So pivoted back towards the pony cart that it was chipping away at my swarms at the top. On the top left-hand side, you can see the Slann is just flying over the top, turning or wheeling a bit, and then using its lumbering free pivot or free 90-degree turn at the end of its unit to face again into the back. So at this stage, I can see Paul was understandably frustrated that there wasn't going to be much to do there while fireballs and ruby rings kept dropping on into their back. So the Kroxigor and the Saurus are just backing up as much as possible to try to brace for this charge that's coming from the Hammerers, and the Skinks at the top are trying to whittle away, finish his units. Interesting, I rolled a ton of hits in this game, but just couldn't crack that armor for a long time. I got the triple charge into the Hammerers unit and did a whole lot of damage. A really fascinating scenario that was exhausting, and I think we got it wrong the first time how this plays out, but ultimately the Carnosaur killed a whole bunch in the back because I didn't challenge, but then Paul issued a challenge with his champion. I accepted with my Kroxigor champion. They knocked each other out. Carnosaur ripped through a bunch of the Hammerers. The king did some damage, ended up winning by 4. And then what occurred next was that the king's unit fell back in good order, and we made a mistake and ended up putting the king's unit back about 4 inches. But instead of the Carnosaur pursuing, we thought it was an overrun move, and the overrun move sent the Carnosaur straight forward in a non-intuitive, but at the time seemed to make sense situation. So the king fled back through, didn't take many hits. At this stage, I was close to the breakpoint, as you can probably see, but not quite there, because the king has 6 wounds. And the Pillar of Fire is doing some damage, but not enough. All those warriors or dwarf warriors in the middle are casualties at this stage. So the Stegodon's made short work of the pony cart, and on the next and potentially final position, the king has charged into the Carnosaur. The D6 wounds don't fail this time, knocks it out, and wins that combat. The Slann continues to follow the Royal Clan Warriors to the left, whereas the other units just stick around. That was pretty much it at the end. 691 to 296. I'd won that round. We had another round after that to go with 3 minutes left, but it was called there. And I think it was a pretty fascinating game in some respects. We'll go into great detail, I think, on a couple of situations, combats that taught me the rules a lot better. I think the main takeaways for me that terrain is a really important part of the game. I've been very impressed. I was with the square-based setup with the maps they use and how they've iterated the scenarios from the book to involve more play. I was glad that the organizers had gone with them. I felt like every table I played on, there were things to do and it was balanced. I think just having rules knowledge, it's part of the game. It's a feature, not a bug. The game is enjoyable because it's so complex and it creates unpredictable situations. Not the things that we learned Paul was great about a lot of it. There was mostly ignorance on both of our behalves. I mean, we're people who played the game before, but with the new edition, there's so many things that you need to be able to think about. And I don't blame anybody for what went wrong or what went right. I'm sure things went my way that we forgot about. It is good to know though, because tactically, as I explained in the last video, the Carnosaur has a lot of issues with being led around by Frenzy at the end of the game. Finally, winning 2 games. I hadn't played Dwarfs with Lizardmen or at all before this tournament, and came to the tournament after a practice game with move 4 killing me against a gun line, and the move 6 was huge the entire time. Like you can see from the progression of those slides and the photos that were taken, that it was very difficult for Paul to catch me ever, except for that last bit at the end. And that was a combination of not just move 6, but being able to use the plethora of turns and skirmishing advantages and restrain and reform and all the other little tricks that help you to just get the combats that you want. So thanks for watching again. That's it for today. On to the round 3 and the final round against Eric in the next video, Warriors of Chaos. Hope to see you then. Thanks.